The art of tie-dyeing has been around in different cultures for hundreds of years. The 1960s hippie movement made this fabric dyeing process extremely popular in America. Today I'm going to show you how to tie-dye tissue paper using Sargent Art watercolor magic. I have to caution you before we begin, this project can get a little bit messy. We're going to be working with a very wet tissue paper here and wet paint. So I'm going to be using a Sargent Art flat tray as a blotter to protect my table. You want to use something similar or cover your table with newspaper. Just be aware that there is a little bit of water and a little bit of mess involved. So what we're going to do, you can do this with either tissue paper, and it should be white, or even tracing paper works as well. I'm using a piece that's cut to 9 by 12. You could do it with a full sheet. It's up to you, but the 9 by 12 works better for demonstration purposes. So what you want to do is fold this up. When you fold it, just go edge to edge and really crease the edges. You can try folding in different directions. It really doesn't matter. You'll get different results. So I'm folding it up into skinny pieces, and then I'm going to fold it in half. So now's where we get messy. So we have to take this and we have to saturate it with water. So you could run it under a faucet, or I have a spray bottle here. I'm just going to spray mine down. So you need to totally saturate it, not just the outside. All of the inside pieces should be saturated as well. So really make sure you get a decent amount of water. And when you think you have it, you need to squeegee this out to get some of the extra off. So you can see how messy this is already, and I just started and there's no paint yet. So once this is nice and wet and folded, we're going to take our Sargent Art liquid watercolor, which has a really nice intense bright color, and we're going to apply it right on the edges. So we're applying wet paint to wet paper, which is a wet on wet technique. And you can see how nice and dark this color is showing right now, and I don't have to do anything to it. This is right out of the bottle, and I'm just going to apply it on the edges. You can see because it's wet on wet that it really has a nice kind of soft edge, similar to a tie-dye effect on a t-shirt. So you want to put it on pretty heavily so that it can soak through the various different folds of your tissue paper. And if it's going to run, it's going to run. That's quite all right. And do some more purple on this side. And then I'm going to try mixing some colors. Okay, I'm going to take some blue in here on this side. And you can let the colors kind of bleed and run together. That is perfectly fine. And since you're doing kind of the wet on wet, that's going to happen much easier. Okay. So I'm going to check the back. And you know what? It didn't quite go through all the way as much as I wanted to, so I'm going to do it on the back as well. Just applying it thick all the way around the edges on the corners. You can mix up the colors, you can kind of come out further in some spots. You can really kind of experiment and have fun with this. There's no right or wrong way. Just make sure you go in the creases and make sure that you put, you know, a thick application of the watercolor magic on there. Okay, so once you think it's completely saturated, I think we did a pretty good job here. You need to carefully open it up. Now this is the tricky part because it is tissue paper and it is, you know, very, very thin because it's wet, so you have to be careful not to rip it. But you can see already how that started to bleed through to my inside layers. You want to make sure you have an area ready to go with this. I have another Sargent Art large tray next to me that I can put this on because it is going to be very wet. You need to have a nice area for it to dry flat. So when I open it up, you can see that tie-dye effect. Very carefully here. If your colors did not turn out as bright as you wanted, you can always go back in. I'm going to lay this out flat. you can always go back in and add more paint to it. So this is going to have to dry flat. So once this is dry, it has a variety of uses. This tie-dyed paper can be used just as is. You can mount it and just, call it art, leave it on the wall. You could cut it up and use it as, paper for maybe collage or for another art project or craft project. Or you can use this tie-dyed paper as gift wrap and wrap up a present with it. So this is just another amazing use for Sargent Art watercolor magic. Have fun tie-dyeing your paper.